Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Um, Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. Thank you, NJTPA, for having me here. It's truly an honor. It's been about 5 years since I've been here, and it's really good to see what you've done with this space. Um, Thank you. Thank you so much. So today I want to talk to you about from idea to implementation, national tools helping local governments deliver safer projects. I want to do so based upon the federal work that we're doing around the country. I'll speak to you about three different programs: the RCI program, which is Reconnecting Communities Institute, the HUD's Thriving Community program, and the DOT Thriving Communities program. I would like to state that I'm not a spokesperson for either of them. My company provides technical assistance at a national level. And of course, being based in Franklin, Somerset, New Jersey, I didn't want New Jersey to miss out on those opportunities. So that's what I'll be sharing here today. I want to start though with three main questions. And I'm asking these questions not for the sake of provocation, or as my Canadian friends would say, provocation. I'm asking them because they're the same questions that we've been hearing throughout the state and around the country, and those are questions I would like to ask here. Firstly, the question is, why do so many communities struggle to move from safety plans to built projects? I ask this question because plans are adopted, safety goals are clearly stated, funding opportunities are identified, and then, unfortunately, projects stall. We often talk about this among ourselves as sort of a technical problem or a design problem, or better yet, a problem with engagement, public engagement, stakeholder engagement. But if that was the whole story, we wouldn't see the same pattern happening, not just here in the state, but all over the country. So the next question I would have you ponder is, are we failing at safety, or are we asking local governments to simply do the impossible? And I ask that because really this question is about shifting where the responsibility lies. Because when you look closely at what happens on the ground, what you don't see is indifference. You see people committed to doing the work. You see them wearing multiple hats. You see engineering and planning teams that are stretched thin. You also see elected officials who are navigating real political risk. But they're doing this despite the fact that expectations are continuing to rise for faster delivery from everyone, fewer mistakes, and even broader consensus. What I'm here to state is that that's not failure, that's strain. And so the next question I would have you consider is, if we know what saves lives, why is it still so hard for local governments to deliver safety projects? This is the question that ultimately took my work from local to national to international, because I care about where I live and I wanted answers to those very questions so I can bring them back here to New Jersey. Because what I found is that once you stop blaming communities and start examining the systems, what you'll see is that a different picture emerges. And what that is that the issue isn't that we don't know what works. It's the system that local governments operate within that consistently do not support delivery. And so, with that being said, I want to discuss the importance of moving from knowing to doing. And this is this gap between knowledge and delivery. In this room and outside of this room, we know what saved lives. I've done research for over a decade plus, so we have decades of research. We have design guidance. We have federal funding programs, but knowing is not the same as doing. And ultimately, delivery requires staffing. It also requires coordination. And lastly, delivery requires political confidence. And so when we look at what's happening, we're seeing these gaps once again over and over again. This brings me to a picture that really changed my career here in New Jersey. And this is the West Ward of Newark. And I want to be very clear about something up front. Newark, the city itself, wasn't a problem. They were committed. They've always been committed. We were brought in as part of a complete streets conceptualization early before the technical assistance was delivered to reimagine what this street would look like. The residents showed up. The city of Newark showed up. The Urban League showed up. They stated to us what they wanted in the changes that existed or could exist along this roadway. And what many of them wanted is exactly what you want. They wanted sidewalks repaired. They wanted beautification in the area. They wanted street trees. They wanted a road diet. They also wanted bike lanes. And I want to touch on bike lanes because nationally and even locally, there's been a conversation that sometimes bike lanes are white lanes, pun intended. But the point is, there's no research to back that. The people there in this predominantly Black and brown community wanted exactly what everyone else wanted. What they didn't want is to be displaced once these changes came. And so when we look at this from the standpoint of Newark, while Newark wanted it, they're operating in a system that doesn't give them enough control to bring these realities about. And so what we find locally among local governments is that this isn't a matter of commitment. This is a system that isn't designed to help them function at the highest level. That brings me to why this matters for NJTPA in New Jersey. It brings us here because this is a New Jersey problem, but it's not a New Jersey failure. The reason this matters for NJTPA and for New Jersey is simple. The challenges that we're solving nationwide, safety, staffing, coordination, and project development, are the same challenges that New Jersey communities are facing right now. So this isn't about being behind. It's about operating in a system that makes delivery harder than it needs to be. And I feel that NJTPA and the parties here are at a critical intersection in this city, because we are aware of the rising safety risks, the staffing shortages and burnout, and also the lack of coordination in some cases across agencies. And so what this ultimately does then is make project development uncertain. Here are the 3 tools that I would like to bring to your attention that we currently are working as part of delivering technical assistance. Some of you will be aware of them, some of you may not. Please note that they are for everyone. Here are the 3 tools. One is the HUD Technical Assistance Program, better known as the TCTA, and I'll touch on each and every one of these individually. The Reconnecting Communities Institute and the Thriving Communities Program. So one important thing to note as part of this ecosystem that is designed to support local government from a federal government standpoint is that these are not standalone programs. In fact, they're designed to work together as an ecosystem to support you in your communities. The first one I would like to bring your attention to is the Reconnecting Communities Institute. It's about building alignment before projects stall. The Reconnecting Communities Institute is a national platform that supports communities working to repair the harm caused by transportation infrastructure and advance projects that reconnect communities, improve safety, and restore opportunity. Why does that matter in this context? Because if we look around throughout the state, in particular in our region, what we find is that past infrastructure decisions have left too many communities divided, unsafe, or disconnected. And that is not just for Black and brown communities, that's also for other low-income communities as well. And so today's challenge, which is why the Reconnecting Communities Institute came about, is not just rebuilding the infrastructure. It is about rebuilding that trust with community. It's about realigning ourselves and about having a shared purpose. So ultimately what this does is it addresses the legacy harm from this infrastructure. It also builds shared understanding. And then lastly, it reduces political friction early. A lot of the friction comes about, sure, through a lack of um, intentional public outreach and engagement, but it's also political friction on the multiple levels of government when there's misalignment. So what it solves for a community would be this fragmented ownership, this fear of missteps, and then lastly, the misalignment across agencies. I want to point out that all three of these programs started under the Biden-Harris administration, but they continue under the Trump administration. So these are programs that, regardless of one's policies or politics, they've been deemed necessary to help local communities because local communities need help the most. The next one is the US DOT Thriving Communities Program. See, it's about moving from vision to fundable projects. And when we look at the US DOT Thriving Communities Program, it provides hands-on technical assistance to help these underserved communities plan, scope, and advance their transportation projects that ultimately, once again, improve safety, access, and economic opportunities. And this matters here because if you go around the room and speak to municipal reps, what you're going to hear is that there is a lack of staff capacity to actually move projects forward. There's a lack of technical expertise. And then what happens as a result, there's a lack of overall confidence to get it done for the people that they serve. And so programs like the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program, the Vibrant Places and Community Program, those are all great things at a local level. So think about the values of that program, but one with, I hate to say putting something on steroids, so I would say giving it more vitamins. This is what this is. This is preparing you for federal funding. And so one of our communities here, the city of East Orange, was a recipient of that. I want to point out that it was only one of our communities. These programs are put before you because given the population of New Jersey, the need at the local level, we should have far more communities represented. And so when you look at the Thriving Communities Program, what it does is provides the hands-on technical assistance from some of the best minds in the world. It grants readiness and project scoping, and it also helps address leadership and capacity building. What it solves is answering the question or the concern regarding you not having staff. It also addresses the concern of you missing another cycle, or if you don't know where to start. So if you need a brain trust, you're working at the local level, this is a program that you would want to be part of to help you strategically move forward. And then lastly, there's housing. There's the HUD Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Program. And one of the disconcerting or concerning parts about this particular program is that there should be at least 10,000 more applications to be part of this because communities all over the country are struggling with housing stability and instability. They're dealing with affordable housing crises, so on and so forth. So this is about taking what we've just heard about transportation and aligning it with transportation, housing, and land use. This matters because as communities invest federal dollars into transportation, utilities, and so forth, housing must be planned alongside these investments. And so what it does ultimately then is integrate safety with housing and development. It support cross-sector coordination. And what it solves is siloed planning. Many of us who go to planning school enjoy the fact that we can work on multiple things within the realm of planning at once, only to go out into our careers and being told your transportation only, your environment only, your outreach and engagement only, or your housing only. We know at our hearts of hearts, we would like to move beyond the silo field and address all of these issues head on. This gives you an opportunity to work beyond that. It also addresses missed joint funding opportunities and community resistance driven by fear. What is fear? Comes from uncertainty. And so some of you may be wondering, are these tools available and who can use them? The answer is that yes, they're still available. When you look to the RCI, there are 3 groups that enter into this institute. One is the planning group. One is there's the entry level group, there's a planning group, there's the implementation group. We oversee the entry level group. So if you were to join this or have thoughts about joining it, we'll probably work with you directly along with our counterparts. The DOT TCP is recurring, it's competitive, but given the resources that NJTPA provides here with assisting local governments, I believe that you'll be able to mitigate some of the competitive disadvantages that towns have. And then lastly, the HUD one is TCTA. It is request-based. It's on a rolling request, but you have to be under 250,000, ideally to be prioritized, but that does not disqualify you. As you know, most of New Jersey municipalities are under a population of 250,000. I think only Newark and Jersey City, don't get mad at me if there are others, but Newark and Jersey City, I know, are at or above that piece. And so you may be wondering then, how do these tools work together? In summary, the RCI is about that alignment and trust, ensuring that you have that very, very early from the community all the way up to the decision makers. The HUD TCP is about longer term integration. And then lastly, the thriving community is about project readiness. And so if you want examples of what this has looked like around the country, here's an example in your front yard or backyard, depending on where you're oriented. And that is the example of the oranges. This was work that NJTPA was involved in very early, which was looking at the freeway drive and station area safety and public realm. We worked with the local governments there by way of a tactical urbanism project. There were some other policy and programmatic areas, including a bicycle ride. And as you can see here, that resulted in paint literally on the ground. The main thing to note from that is that they'd had a longstanding challenge of engaging with DOT. And it wasn't that DOT was opposed to, working with the community. It could have been simply they didn't know who to email. And so, in short, what happened there is that relationship was built upon. DOT was contacted, DOT was aware, and DOT provided feedback regarding what could ultimately lead to a successful project here. So something as simple as just getting the ear of the people that you need to hear most could be a result of this program. This other one is for Beach Town, not here in New Jersey, because again, we didn't have many New Jersey municipalities participate. This one instead is Atlantic Beach, not Atlantic City, but Atlantic Beach. And Atlantic Beach is in South Carolina. If you can imagine a donut, Atlantic Beach is the hole in the donut. It is a historically Black town that was fighting for dignity to be recognized by state, regional governments to ensure that their town was protected against gentrification. If you all are familiar with Bike Week, meaning motorcycles that come to South Carolina yearly, this is the place that they traverse through. And so they wanted to preserve their dignity. They wanted to get the attention of DOT. So they requested multiple forms of technical assistance, from data collection to audits to GIS mapping. And they too ultimately ended by way of historic preservation, putting down a marker to denote that this is a historically Black town. The point here is not to share with you the racial history of this piece, but to let you know that this program is not just about the urban places. This is also about beach, shore, tribal, and other communities as well. Then we have Syracuse, which is where I'm headed this afternoon. If you're familiar with Syracuse, you'll know that Syracuse, there's the viaduct that's coming down. It's a coordination between DOT and HUD, so it's where these programs all come together. So they're tearing down the viaduct there to reconnect the community. Simultaneously, a public housing complex is coming down, and they're looking to rebuild that with mixed use and affordable housing. And so this program is helping to provide the support for outreach and engagement that ultimately gives the residents confidence that they won't be displaced. This is coordination at a whole nother level. And so if there are communities here that have been impacted by transportation decision making and is struggling with affordable housing possibilities, look to Syracuse as a way to infuse community outreach and engagement in that process. And then lastly, one of the things that we're seeing is the power of storytelling. This is Rexburg, Idaho. This is a historically white community, many of which are low income. They put together a barriers video to showcase how they're struggling with transportation access and mobility across the town. They brought us in to film this, and they're using this storytelling element as a powerful tool to acquire more funding. So thinking beyond the transportation context or tools or methods of how you do this, please consider storytelling. It remains a very powerful tool. And so just to wrap up here, again, the point for coming here to talk about this is I hate to see the lack of municipal governments involved in these programs in the context of New Jersey. We have far too many needs to have so little participation. Please do whatever you can to be more visible, to apply, and to ask questions. Lastly, what we're seeing is that safety moves faster when framed operationally versus from an ideological standpoint. Safety is the new word. Safety is the way to go. So continue to get the safety data, the safety storytelling, so on and so forth, to better position yourselves for federal funding. Also, the engagement. It must protect staff, not expose them. Then we see that sequencing beats novelty or innovation. And ultimately, if one is concerned about political risk, what these programs do is provide the clarity that reduces that. And if you take nothing else from this, please know that the multimedia piece has been shown to accelerate trust. There's something about today's time, whether it be Netflix or YouTube, but multimedia is working. And so what I want to end with here, given the love that I have for New Jersey, NJTPA, and all of you here, is that we don't need more ambition. What we need is less friction. We have to get out of our ways. We have to take advantage of the federal programs that are here. And my hope is that you do so starting today. Thank you for your time, and I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.